As an accredited coach, trainer, and keynote speaker, Teri Werner focuses on supporting breakthroughs in both professional and personal success through the principles on which her book, Trainwreck to Triumph, and her leadership programs are based. Her decades as a visionary strategist brings unique skills and the value of strategies that undergird vision in her Empowering Your Vision training and group coaching programs, through which professionals create and connect to their vision. Teri Werner's clients expand their capacity to achieve and lead others to live a life fulfilling their vision and entrepreneurial excellence to support such a thing. Teri leverages her vision and strategies when she and her father merged their vision and passions to become co-founders in a company that became a publicly traded entity on NASDAQ. She continues today to provide coaching and keynote presentations, equipping others to integrate proven principles to accelerate their influence and live out their destiny. It is her belief that our world cries out for powerful truth that may be hard to hear and leaders that may seem hard to find. As Samantha Horowitz shares, a veteran co-founder and a badge of honor nonprofit providing post-traumatic stress awareness and suicide prevention to first responders and veterans, she stated, Teri Werner, an author of Trainwreck to Triumph, cuts through the noise and gets right to the point that forgiveness and faith heals. She takes you on a healing journey, unlike any program out there, where you can come as you are and feel supported along the way. If you have tragedy and unresolved pain, frustration, or post-traumatic stress and want to break free from the pain, grab this book. Keep it close and use it daily to find your back on the path to healing. Teri is committed to supporting leaders, influencers, as well as media professionals with strategies to generate recurring revenues in ways that monetize their message, expand their audience, and increase their impact. Please help me welcome the one and only Teri Werner. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of the ME Show. My name is Ali Midawi. I go by your strategic partner, and we are live from the ME studios as we are recording a brand new episode. And let me just tell you, I am super excited about this one. This is probably one of the most electrifying sessions that we're going to have from the sense of personal development, spiritual development, and even business development, because we are going to be talking about some economical laws as well, and so much more. This young lady, as you heard in the bio, has created so much impact for many individuals for decades at this point, and she continues. Though she looks like she graduated college 4 years ago, I love the fact that she has so much wisdom, knowledge, and absolute impact from a spiritual standpoint to a business development standpoint. She put this book, Trainwreck to Triumph, book that I am very, very passionate about, that has kept me involved and engaged. The book itself felt like you were reading a spiritual guided book, to a business guide, to a relationship guide, to a philosophical guide. Then there's imagery going in and out of it. It felt like art. I mean, everything that you appreciate from different genres of books and reads was absolutely in here. And I cannot wait, ladies and gentlemen, for the very first and definitely not the last, the one and only Teri Werner. How you doing, young lady?
I'm doing great. Thank you.
Absolutely. I am super excited to not only share this time together, but I got so much questions for my selfish needs that I'm pretty sure everybody shares the same emotion that I have. But I love first and foremost the title of the book itself,
Thank you.
because we all look at the accolades, we all look at the hero that we are listening to, right? Your bio is impeccable, and everybody's like, "Oh my God, of course," because she is who she is. But they don't understand that there was a train wreck before the triumph itself, and you have your own way of identifying that. And everybody's going through that very same journey. So talk to us a little bit about the train wreck part. Like, where did it all begin? How did you even get inspired to start putting this incredibly well put book together?
Oh, well, thank you so much. Well, there were a couple of train wrecks, and it kind of accumulated. I've spoken on this book before, and a little boy came up and said, "Did you break your leg in the train wreck?" You know,
Mm,
and it almost, it felt like it. So I had some business reversals, some things where I took in partners I trusted, and things went down a slippery slope. A lot of betrayal, a lot of things like that. And then I did something where I pretty much took myself off the market, what you would say, as far as not dating, not really looking back in those single days, looking for that relationship. And I think I became really vulnerable and didn't pay attention to patterns that I saw, or I didn't see them possibly. I was just, in that moment. And went very bad, very short term relationship, but incredibly difficult. A lot of betrayal, a lot of difficulty, a lot of things that definitely does not serve a marriage. And it became very difficult. There was some very difficult times as far as, mental and emotional abuse and a lot of trickery.
yeah.
And just came to a tough place. And I came to a place where I felt absolutely destroyed, devastated.
I totally relate to that, by the way, and I believe the masses would as well. Whether you're a man or a woman, I've had my fair share of physical and emotional abuse since I was a little child, and it carried
Mhm.
that trauma where, you talk about self worth, and you talk about seeing and believing in yourselves, and you talk about in your book itself the environment of your thoughts creates the architecture of the thought of
Mhm.
you operate in your belief system itself. But one thing that you just mentioned, and if I can dig into it, you talked about, you started seeing patterns. Many of us don't even have the awareness of identifying certain patterns. So how would one start or begin to find a little pattern or a repetition of the same exact thing
Mhm.
over and over and over again? Because I think it's simple to spot it, but we don't have the awareness for it.
Mhm. I think a lot comes in self coaching, which I mentioned in the book, and asking yourself, what patterns are you seeing? And first of all, of course, making sure that we forgive ourselves and we forgive each other, and releasing that and taking accountability for our part in it. What is the part in our patterns? Not necessarily just everyone else's. And when we see those patterns showing up, knowing that there is a solution. So, really, I tell people, if you want to do one thing that's going to really make a difference for your relationships and for your personal growth and spiritual growth, is looking at patterns. And then there's ways to communicate around those patterns that break or interrupt that pattern.
I love that. And one of the things that I loved a lot, and I'm curious about. I could have texted you literally the whole time, like, hey, how
You
about this? And
should
I'm
have.
like, no, wait, no, I wanted the actual organic conversation here. So the book itself, because it starts with prayer and it has a lot of biblical verses really throughout the whole book.
Mhm.
And at the same exact time, it talks about different laws, like natural laws that we are. It's like you've bridged what you need to understand from day to day philosophies to biblical teachings that one is derived from the other. Or walk me through the process of writing. Is this considered to be a ministry book that is teaching about different elements of life? Or is this a personal development slash business development? Really, I felt like I was being developed in every area with biblical validation. Which way would you see it?
Yes. Yes.
Got it. So,
And
so,
yeah,
so how does, I mean, was it intentional, or was how long did you
mhm.
spend working on the book?
Oh, geez, this was a long time. So, in the book, I mentioned prayer journaling. And really, I believe very strongly in the ability and in the value of prayer journaling, which we'll go more into, and the book goes more into.
Yeah.
So, I was prayer journaling 20 years ago. And I thought I was prayer journaling, and I looked up and I'd written the first version of this book, which is about 60 pages, 2/3 of it journaling. And I put that out, just self-published and put it out. And people started commenting they were healed from a lot of different things, childhood issues, very strong betrayals as a child, abuse and etc., as well as divorce and business reversals and etc.
Yeah.
I just went with that book for a while until about 5 years ago. I really felt the Lord, I felt very compelled to edit the book because I wasn't giving it out because I felt like there were mistakes in it. I felt like it just wasn't the level, the caliber I wanted to have out. And I had become a vision and strategist and coach and done a lot in that area of coaching. So I wanted to include some more. So about 5 years ago, I started rewriting the book that I thought would take a long weekend. You know, the first book took 3 days, or 3 hours. This would take 3 days. And then I worked on it for a year, 6 days a week, all day long for a year to put all this new information in. So the first book went from 60 pages to 279. And as I was doing this book, I became afflicted with COVID. And there was so much medication they gave me. This is at the early part of that pandemic, or however we want to frame it, that by the time I got home from the hospital, I was in really bad shape on oxygen. Couldn't even remember some of the book. I was glad I wrote it right before. I felt so compelled to write it. And so for the last 4 years, I really was recovering and added more to it, more to it, more to it. And then about a year ago, I started working with an editor. So it's taken a long time, but I wrote it in the way I wanted people that were not faith-based to still get a lot of help and to be led into a place, if they chose to move into a faith-based experience, that they would deepen their experience with God. Those that already are there would obviously connect with it very quickly in that area. So I made sure the scripture was there and the faith-based laws were there and the faith-based information. But I wanted people, everyone, to not feel hammered, oh, you must forgive, or anything like that. I wanted it to be something that they could relate to, that would meet them where they are. So I wrote the book to meet you where you are and to feel like you have a friend walking with you, because I'm right there with you.
Yeah, it felt that way. I mean, from beginning to end, there was this constant question of, where are you now? Or, like, your story is my story. It was just beautifully put. That's why I'm curious on your creative mode. And I realized, I'm like, there is no way this was like a quick project. Some authors are phenomenal that they can get it from beginning to end to publishing within a year. I'm like, because the different ins and outs and the mechanics from multiple layers, because it literally, and I kid you not, I was like, oh, okay, cool. There's scripture from the very beginning, and then you read, the content itself, and you go through every single title. I'm like, okay, so that's a little bit more philosophy, and then you start reading like, the natural economic laws. I'm like, wait, now we're talking about business fundamentals, and it was just, and then there's questions, and like it felt like a workbook at one point. I'm like, wait, I'm supposed to answer these questions. So there's all these different intricate pieces that genuinely, this is not your traditional book that you read and done. This is not your book that you read by the beachside, though you can. This is, I'm going to work on myself, and I really got to take a little by little at a time and work on every single element over and over and over again. It's like the gift that keeps on giving. And, congratulations for you on doing
You.
really just, yeah, absolutely. You said, you are the perfect example of somebody who doesn't need to move fast, rather need to move correctly. And this book was definitely done correctly. I want to dive into the specific parts again that spoke to me personally. And I average one book a month at the very least. Like I'm always reading, right? Or at least listening to audiobooks if I'm not physically reading a book. And you find a lot of things that you've heard somewhat of a different perspective in your book itself. When you're writing a book, what is your ultimate goal? I felt like there was a lot of self-healing, forgive yourself, forgive others. But what was your goal that you wanted to achieve and establish with this book?
Well, the goal for what I want the readers to feel was I want them to know there's a formula, there's a place, there's a guide for next steps of how to get from a place of trauma to a place of triumph, how to turn devastation, destruction, derailment into destiny, how to really get to that place where they feel they're in triumph. I know so many people that they do a lot of the right things, but they're still stuck. Their obstacles, their whatever has happened, they're just stuck in a rut. And pretty soon that rut becomes a ditch and even a grave of their destiny. And I wanted them to have a pathway because when I went through my devastation, I was always known as the golden girl. From the time I was 13, I knew how to make money. Things worked for me until they didn't. My life was great until it wasn't. And I got to a place where I remember telling my dad, he was sitting in a recliner and I was on the floor sitting Indian style. And I said, Dad, the thing has happened that we never thought would happen. I am destroyed. And I really felt I was devastated, destroyed, without hope. And I was almost 50 at the time. And so I really felt that. And I knew then, if ever I find a formula that will take people from where they are to where they really choose to be, a place of destiny, a place of living their vision and being free from the past, I could not do it. It would have to be done. I would have crawled on broken glass to be healed, to be whole, to feel release from the past. And so I wrote it in that way, that they would have a friend, they would feel like I was coaching them. And I was coaching them through every part of their journey to make sure they got to that place, they arrived at that place where they were accessing their destiny, living fully. The derailments aren't meant to keep us back forever. They just change where we're at. And so turning those into destiny. And that was my goal for each and every person, that they felt that I was there, that I was coaching them, it was about them, not about me.
So you mentioned coaching them. Is this book already a workshop? Are you planning on turning it? Because I feel like this needs to be like a 5-day workshop, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
No, because there's so many areas of it that you're like, oh my God, like I'm writing notes of things that I got to work on as I'm going through it. And you also, in another way, you're like, like I found myself, reading the prayer. You had it like two parts to
Mhm.
it in blue about after Matthew 3:16, and then right after you follow with the prayer. Like I all of a sudden I'm praying. Like I kind of took my brain out of the idea that I'm reading a book and I'm just reading a prayer, and I'm like, Amen. All right, so let me move on. I'm like, wait, what am I doing? I'm supposed to read this.
Mhm. Mhm.
So is there a workshop along with the book, or are you planning of creating a
Mhm.
workshop or some modules? Tell us about,
Okay.
we want more. We are hungry and thirsty for more.
Well, that's good news. I love that part. A lot of the information came from my coaching. I've coached for 20 years and coaching and just supporting people in their pathway. I am creating a workshop that actually, if you took the book could become a facilitation manual for a trainer. So I will be doing first of all, a train session where it will be a 2-day session. People can come to the session if they choose, and it will be recorded. And then we'll break that down into tutorial sessions where you could buy the book and you could buy the sessions and you could have that available. I'd love to get this to churches, to recovery ministries, to veterans, to anyone who finds themselves in a place of brokenness or a place of maybe they need the breakthrough and they're really making some things happen. And then there will be group sessions where we'll be recording those and people can access those that will be on various insights in each section of the 4 sections: Trainwreck, Transition, Transformation, and Triumph.
Well, that's amazing, and yeah, we're gonna be talking about those 4 sections. So here's what we're gonna do: we're gonna take a little bit of a break. We got some bills to pay, so we're gonna tell you a little bit about why you need to buy this book, and then again, remember, make sure you go to Trainwreck to Triumph.com. We're gonna be doing some giveaways as well, so I hope you do your part and get that book right away. And if you're driving, please pull over before you start going online. But for those of you who are listening or watching at a comfortable place, man, I got so much more for you. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Teri Werner, and I want to tell you one thing, that as I was writing my book, Trainwreck to Triumph, you were on my mind. No matter what you've gone through and what you plan on taking place in your life, Triumph is for you. And when you go to trainwrecktotriumph.com and put your email address in to subscribe to We Triumph Community, you'll receive information about free product, and you'll receive the download of your free ebook, How to Help Your Friend Heal Through Their Train Wreck Without Jumping in with Them.
Welcome back. Welcome back. Hey, did you actually opt into the website? Did you subscribe? Because you saw all those goodies that Ms. Werner is going to be giving you. I hope that you did your part, because we're going to give a whole lot more, but you got to make sure. So here, I'll give you permission right now to pause me. Again, if you're driving, don't touch that phone. Can I pause me? And you can go to trainwrecktotriumph.com and make sure that you actually subscribe to the email and make sure that you get all those goodies that you heard, because I got more stuff that I'm going to give you at the end. All right, here we go. Let's go, ladies and gentlemen. We're right back, and we are with the author herself, the queen of all queens that brought this book together for us, Trainwreck to Triumph, which is the gift that keeps on giving. Let me dive into some of the parts that hit me the most, that spoke to me the most. One of the things that you talked about was the law of longevity. And in that portion, there's an order that you put together that was fascinating to me. You know, when somebody goes like, what's important to you? I'm like, well, I always put God first, right? But then I go like my kids and my wife. And there's one component that you had in there that was like, I skipped myself, right? You put God, me, spouse, and then children. So is that biblical teaching 101, or is there, talk to us about how that came about?
Well, we're created to have relationship with God. I base it on the law of longevity. It's based on who you're with the longest and who you have more authority and responsibility over. And so our first relationship, obviously God in the beginning, and he is the one that we're with the longest. After the kids go, after, partners go and that kind of thing, we answer to God. We stand before God, and we're responsible for our decisions. And it really does give us an understanding around our accountability and our first love. And so then it's our relationship with ourselves. We're responsible, and this is one of my favorite subjects, okay? So we're responsible for our actions, our thoughts, our actions, our beliefs. No one else has control, has input to the level we do. And there's even something I mentioned in the book that goes further into who has control of our life, who controls our thoughts, our beliefs, our actions. We do. And so really understanding that our relationship with ourselves and our relationship with God is 1 and 2, and the relationship with ourselves and being accountable to that. And then the next, of course, is what is our spouse, and then our kids. And I see so many marriages, because I do some relationship coaching, and I see so many marriages that everything's great until the kids come. And it's still great. You want to empower and impact your children. At the same time, they cannot take the place in that order, that rule. They cannot take the place of your spouse, because that is the person that you're partnered with. The children will be raised, and definitely they're the next priority. But if the relationship you have with your spouse is not stellar, then you're not going to be able to agree about how to raise the children. It's going to cause a challenge. And I also meet a lot of men specifically that say, as clients of mine, everything was fine, but it seems like whoever the wife's name is, Susan, is everything's about the kids. All the quality time goes to the kids. And that really has to be understood about, maybe there's not balance, but there's harmony in that. And then it's your job. What is your job? What are you doing? it's your friends and then your job. Sorry, friends and then your job. And so many times the job will have to take precedence for a while because of you got to put food on the table and there's demands and that kind of thing. But realizing how to put that priority together and how to be really present to each person in your life, present in your relationship with God, present to yourself, nurture yourself. That old story, you can't give from a bucket that's empty, or we have many different versions of it, drink from a cup that's empty and so forth. You'll not have the ability, the capacity to empower and inspire and be present if you're not present to yourself and nurturing yourself and giving yourself time to really evaluate and to empower and to be in that place of prayer and to be in that place of just looking deeply within yourself,
And so,
asking yourself powerful questions.
yeah, and you know what's fascinating, and first of all, I couldn't agree with you more. I think the more we are in the mundane of life, the more we forget about that piece. That sometimes our children attempt to remind. I can speak on this. I have a 7-year-old. My wife and I have a 7-year-old and a 4-year-old, and I can't tell you how many times, like, our children would say something, and I'm like, just give me a second, son. And then it hits me like what just happened, where when I play it slow motion in my head, where my son would say something like, "Hey, Papa, are you done? Do you mind if we actually do something together?" Where again, we're
Mhm.
like, "Yeah, sure, hold on a second, right? I'll be right with you." But a 7-year-old standing right there staring at me for 30 seconds, and I'm doing this the whole time. Hold on one second, hold on one second. And all he wanted is just a moment of presence from a father. And I think if you
Mhm.
don't, as you've mentioned, take care of yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, in every single way, your level of awareness also kind of dilutes a little bit to the ones that
Mhm.
are around you, right? The ones that are around you get
Yes.
to struggle with that. Let me dive into another piece which was fascinating to me. Forgot who he was. A gentleman that a mutual friend with Dr. Stan Harris, Dr. Breakthrough,
Mhm.
a mutual friend that we have. Um, Forgot his name. He's not really a friend, just somebody that I met through him. He's mentioned, he goes like, he focuses on pastors, to consult for pastors and ministers. And
Mhm.
I asked him, I'm like, why is that an area of focus for you to
Mhm.
coach ministers and pastors and preachers and reverends? He said, because they are the most broke of them all. He goes like, 99% of pastors and ministers and preachers and people of God who do ministry work, they're broke. And I was like, really? He goes like, not just financially, but health
Mhm.
wise and relationship wise, because the mindset is, I'm gonna just go dive all in ministry, but they're suffering everywhere else. And that's a part that you wrote about in your book.
Mhm.
Talk to me about elaborate, if you will, because
Okay.
there are a lot of my audience that are men and women of faith and men and women who do ministry work, and they may be suffering off that very same point.
Well, I'll first preface this by saying this is my opinion and it's what I've experienced when I've coached pastors myself. My company that I took public years ago, decades ago, was in the church space. So we did interior design for churches, and then I ended up coaching a lot of pastors because they got to know me and we were working together and etc. So I'll say that. Years ago, back years and years ago, things were different in how people thought who were in the ministry. It wasn't like it is now, necessarily in a lot of ways. So they felt like, well, God was number one, and what I do is for God. So I'm a minister. It has to come first. The church has to come first. My ministry has to come first. It is the number one thing. And then everyone else came, below. But I really believe that now more the ministers understand and pastors that really God, the relationship with God is number one. But some of the ministry areas can be, definitely there's days that it's a top priority because of timing and etc. But the family also can be into that place of position because the church that they're pastoring can actually be their job. And having a job or career isn't a bad thing. It's very important. My job, my career, what I do is very important to me. But I think sometimes we mixed up the priorities. There's actually a book on this, an old book I believe it's called Women of Prayer, Men of Valor, Women of Prayer. It's written by a pastor's wife who talks about that. And sometimes in the pastor's home, the kids and the family can feel like it's almost like if your dad's a surgeon, if there's something crucial coming up, they're going to need to respond. But I think so much of that now is shifting, and pastors are realizing, wow, who I'm with the longest is my wife and my kids. That's who I'm with the longest other than God. And so really keeping that family strong, those relationships powerful, and really mentoring and ministering into that is so powerful. My dad's a minister, and he uses the phrase many times, your family is your first ministry.
Mm. That is powerful. Just the way you've put it. Let me dive into another piece, which I was smiling a lot in this one. So I've never ever surfed before. I've done like body, boogie boards, but I've never went surfing. And I hear that you love surfing. So you had a whole passage talking about imagining yourself body surfing and what goes through the mind, and along with a lot of affirmations and things like that. So talk to me about that whole concept of body surfing and the logic behind it.
So to clarify, I am not a good surfer. I'm a great body surfer. Okay. There is a different things there. My balance, and my husband would just be laughing right now because, there's a long story with all those mishaps. So I love Hawaii. I love the ocean, and I love body surfing.
Yeah.
And so the analogy came from that. And, when you're body surfing, one thing, first of all, and I love it, so I'm glad you love this, is when you're body surfing, you've got to, number one, be in the water. You're not going to sit on the booth and go on the beach, rather. You're not going to sit on the beach and say, wow, when that great wave comes, I'm going to run out in that water. I'm going to paddle as far as I can and get to that big wave, and I'm going to throw myself in that wave. You're just not going to be able to do it. So first of all, you have to be engaged. You have to be in the water. And you'll see a few waves that come and it's not the right one. You just know that's not gonna work. But then this wave comes, and then when the right wave comes, you just throw yourself into that wave with pure abandonment. You're not caring, you're not looking, you're not doing anything but just laying in that wave and letting that wave take you wherever it's going to take you. By the time it throws you into the beach, which I've had some pretty rough experiences on the big beach in Hawaii, when it throws you into the beach and you roll a little bit sometimes, and sometimes you just land, you look up and you're way down the road. You're like 4 miles from your car or something. You're like, where in the world am I? And you have to walk back to your car to the other side you started at. I love that because I love the understanding that there's a power taking you somewhere that you don't even know you're going. There's a power, but you have to get in the flow. Your accountability and responsibility in it, your engagement is to be available, to be prepared, to be right there where the wave's going to happen, and to just let it take you. And I love that understanding around the flow. Because if you've ever been in a situation, you're in business or a relationship, and you have that flow, you're just going. That's so phenomenal. You don't have to think about it. You don't have to do a lot. All you have to do is be there, be available in the flow.
I love
and
that.
I believe that's what God wants for us.
I love that way you've put it together. And when you think about it, just from a common sense, let's exit the book for a second. The fun is always when you actually run into the water, right? Like whether, and the interesting thing is those who try to run away from that wave instead of just going with the flow end up being smashed by that wave and tumbling in the sand and whatnot. So sometimes you might just want to ground yourself and just enjoy that wave that is coming and or jump into it. That is phenomenal. I'm loving this. I told y'all she's good. All right, let's talk about the train wreck is over when you say it's over. That is a simple thing to say, but I know from experience, when I was going through a lot, and I'm like, today is the day I will no longer allow this thing to happen. And 30 minutes later with a cup of coffee, I'm sobbing and I'm like, why me, God? Why me? So So how do you achieve that moment of like, you know what, the train wreck is over when I say it's over, and is it really as easy as it sounds?
Well, no, it's not as easy as it sounds. I don't want to lie here. It's not as easy as it sounds. And I think there's a part where you're transitioning through the pain, forgiving, releasing the pain, releasing judgments, being accountable. All these things make a difference. And as you really do forgive, not forgiving the idea of it, but forgiving the fact it even happened, and getting your head around that, and you really do get into a place of forgiveness and release, there's a release that takes place that no longer connects you to the pain. Do you remember it hurt? Yes, you remember the pain, but you don't feel the pain. And you decide that was a situation that took place. And you know what? There's good I can get from this. I can really receive good from this situation. I'm able to really just move forward. Let that be in the past and move forward in it and decide today is the day I move forward. I'm still hurting. I'm still in pain, but I'm choosing that part, that segment of it is in the past. And from this point forward, I'm moving. I'm walking. I'm accelerating to the next place.
My question to you is, if I'm understanding you right, are we referring to as long as there's progression, the train wreck ending has begun? That's the transition
As
place that
long as
you're
you're
talking about?
moving forward, you're
Got it.
moving
Okay.
forward,
So
and you're
and that's,
willing to
yeah.
release.
Yeah, I appreciate that, because in many cases, when you're going through the muck of a specific situation, right? You
Mhm.
start looking at things as a binary, right? Like I'm either good or I'm bad. I'm either happy or I'm sad. I'm either.
Mhm.
We don't look at like, hey, you don't lose 50 pounds in one day. You lose 30 pounds, over a period of 6 months, right? And that
Mhm.
happened 1 pound every 2 days, and so you got to that level that you've got. So as long as we got progression, we are on our way
Mhm.
at least to ending the train wreck. Is
Mhm.
that what I'm
Mhm.
understanding?
Yes.
All right.
Yes. And it's a decision you make that your identity is not tied to the train wreck. Your identity is tied to what's next.
And that's
So
where
I'm
you're
gonna
separating the pain with the actual occurrence
right,
of
you're
the pain
separating.
itself.
So you're in that transition where what's next? You're looking forward, not backward.
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
find yourself speaking less about the train wreck and more about, there's some good I can see from this. There's something I can do with this.
so let me ask you a question. You have 4 steps that we talk about: triumph, well, rather train wreck, transition, transformation, triumph. Did I get them right?
Yes,
See, I did my homework. Okay.
you did.
Can we like, just if you can give me, look, I'm trying to do my listeners and viewers a favor in here and get a seminar without a seminar for them. If you can elaborate on like, how do we identify the train wreck, and how do we get into, I know we kind of elaborated on it just now with you were
Mhm.
talking about how you create that transition, but walk us through the 4 steps from train wreck to triumph.
Okay. So train wreck, and I'm going to make an analogy here between an actual train wreck. So train wreck is a place of devastation, a place that you're stopped. You're literally, you can envision there's a wreck on the tracks, which your first role you have to do is get off the track before the next train comes. You're in a place of devastation, disappointment. I like to call it derailment, where you just have jumped the track and things are not moving forward. In this part of the book, we talk about the evaluating the train wreck, really looking at it and saying, I'm in a mess here. This is not working. This is a wreck. Evaluating where you are in your level of forgiveness, in your level where you are in this situation. We talk about the harvest of forgiveness, the harvest of unforgiveness, and how to know. Sometimes people don't really always know. We don't always know when we're in the moment of what's going on, the devastation, where we are in the forgiveness piece. So I give symptoms of unforgiveness, symptoms of forgiveness. Then we walk through releasing judgments, releasing the pain, becoming accountable, becoming responsible, life skills. And one thing I think that really helps people heal a lot is just being mature. Uh, Immaturity is the time from point of injury to point of recovery. How long does that take you? You know, how long do you stay? If there's an argument with a spouse, are you the one that doesn't talk for 3 weeks? Are you the one, or a friend, are you the one that needs to nurse it? So releasing. And so that's taking the wreck off the tracks. Then you go in transition, and this is the area where we're setting up new tracks. A lot of times when you ask people what's the most important part of a train, just thinking what's the most important part of a train, most people say the engine, the fuel, the conductor, or the caboose. I don't believe any of those are the most important part. I believe the most important part of a train is the track. Because if no matter what a great train you have, whatever, how wonderful your train is, it can't go anywhere without tracks. So in the transition piece, we're talking about skills to integrate, things to think about, your thought life. I bring out some coaching things about, a question of change, which is what is the one around, I'm trying to say it right, around, what is it? Okay. Around what person, place, or thing did you choose less and call it enough? Because many times people are in the place of feeling like a victim. They're in the place of they don't want any more pain, so they don't reach for anything more. They want just simply enough. They're in survival. And so we bring out various things that will help people set up the tracks for their life, move forward, the thoughts you think, how important those are, looking at certain words, the word distraction. Eliminating distraction from your life is one thing that will be the most important thing in accelerating, that supports you in accelerating your healing journey. Because if you allowed yourself to be distracted by either substance or TV or whatever, it's enjoyable, but at the same point, it may distract you from really paying attention to patterns, really seeing what's going on, looking at those areas of distracting, of disempowerment, of disappointment, and really identifying some things differently in our lives. So then we go into transformation, and that is the part of prayer journaling, different tools. Again, there's some brain science that we talk about that a lot of people don't understand, that when they create a vision in their life, their brain actually creates new networks and pathways to support and collaborate with that vision. And so there's some things that come into place. There's a lot of journaling. You don't have to do the journaling, but I think it does accelerate healing. And then the triumph. Now you're placed, you've gone through, transition was laying the tracks. Transformation is getting back on track. And the triumph is making tracks. When you tell them you're making tracks, you're moving along, you're accelerating, you've integrated the thoughts you think, the understanding around the words you speak, decreeing a word. Scripture says, just decree a word as though it is. We walk through areas of how to forgive the impossible. There's a part in the book called Forgiveness as Simple as 1, 2, 3, as easy as 1, 2, 3. Mm-hmm. And that is actually how I forgave something I thought was unspeakable. And I couldn't even believe, I couldn't fathom that God had let this happen to me. Okay, I couldn't fathom that this had been something that took place. It was so foreign to what I would assume or I did work forward in my life. And God showed me how to forgive the impossible to forgive. And it was by what I said. Every day I would go walking and I would say, speak out forgiveness, words of forgiveness, mercy, peace, and blessings over that situation. I didn't believe it. I didn't want to forgive. I didn't think I could forgive. I didn't have anything. I was absolutely devastated beyond anything I thought I would ever get over. But in speaking out forgiveness, speaking out the power that comes from showing mercy and blessings. And I did that until one day I looked up and I was walking around an area that had been very special to me, that had caused me a lot of pain. So I wouldn't even drive by it. And I looked up and there I was walking around that place and feeling forgiveness, feeling the freedom from the past and feeling that I had forgiven. So there's all these insights on what to do and how to do it and the next steps and what you'll feel when you're doing that. A lot of insight, a lot of development, and then we go to how do you create a vision? Now that you've gone from Trainwreck to Triumph, how do you create a vision? Literally create a vision for your life, commit to it, connect to it, and create strategies to live the life you choose in the way you choose to live it.
I love that. I love that. Well, we're going to take another break. And after we come back, we're going to dive a little bit more into Trainwreck to Triumph, but the great one and only Teri Werner. We'll be right back.
Hey, this is Teri Werner, and I want to tell you one thing, that as I was writing my book, Trainwreck to Triumph, you were on my mind. No matter what you've gone through and what you plan on taking place in your life, Triumph is for you. And when you go to trainwrecktotriumph.com and put your email address in to subscribe to We Triumph Community, you'll receive information about free product, and you'll receive the download of your free ebook, How to Help Your Friend Heal Through Their Train Wreck Without Jumping in with Them.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Ali Midawi with the ME Show and the great Teri Werner. Man, we've been diving into the book itself, Trainwreck to Triumph, a book that genuinely is putting so much impact on me, and I'm so grateful. I know many of you are like, Ali, man, we are so envious of you because you're sitting right in there getting real-time coaching. That's right. We are getting all of that, and we're getting it for you. Hey, so you saw that commercial, and it told you where to go, and here's my advice to you, because here at the ME Studios, we like to give, and we believe so much in this book that we want to do our part to support it as well. So here's what we're going to do. Number one, you got to go to that website that you're seeing in your screen right now. You have to subscribe so you can be part of all those goodies that you heard that you're going to take advantage of. Number two, you purchase a copy of the book itself. So number one, you subscribe. Number two, you purchase the book. Number three, you write a review, 5-star, if you know what I mean, for the God's honest truth impact that you're feeling. So you opt in, you purchase the book, and you write a review. And here's what we're going to do. For the next 20 people who are hearing this message from right now, we're going to give you a complimentary vacation giveaway. This is not a timeshare presentation. We're not doing anything where we're selling your information. None of that. We're truly, genuinely comping you a 4-night, 5-day to Mexico, all inclusive, food, beverage, and lodging. You just got to cover your taxes, and whenever you're ready to travel, your own flight. But food, beverage, and lodging, a value of $3,000. We are comping it for the next 20 people who, A, you ready? Subscribe. B, purchase a copy of the book. And C, make sure you write a review of the best, authentic ideas, knowledge, and impact that you've experienced. And again, Mrs. Werner is going to let us know, hey, Ali, send first name, last name, email, a vacation, and we're going to hook you up. And that, Teri, is how much we believe in the book, that we're going to give away 20 of those. You know what that means, right? We're looking at about $120,000 worth of vacation comp just now. And I'm so excited to do that for you and for your readers as well. All right. Another area of the book that you have a whole chapter that you talk about, honor the roots, and went really, really deep in multiple areas. Talk to me about, because again, I've heard some concepts, but I've never heard it the way you've put it down. What do you mean when you say honor your roots?
Well, first of all, you honor the seed. We'll start there. You honor the seed that brings the harvest. So honoring the seed, like for instance, first 10 commandment, not the first, but one of the 10 commandments is honor thy mother and father. Right. It's honoring the seed you came from. And business, honoring the seed that is planted into your life and that you're planting. Whenever anyone plants anything into your life, sows into your life, that is a seed that will be conducive to a harvest. You don't ever see anyone, or I've never seen anyone, look at a pumpkin and think, oh gosh, I thought that was going to be a rose bush. The harvest was indicative of, right, the harvest is a product of the seed. And so the harvest is the exponential experience of a seed. So many times people align seed and harvest, which I do as well in my teaching. I'm a very strong believer in business, in personal, in spiritual laws that honor the seed. And many times if we'll honor the seed, we'll eliminate a lot of conflict around some areas of our life. But what people forget to talk about is the roots. So yes, you have the seed and yes, you have the harvest, but it's how you nurture and honor those roots. What do you do to make sure you're nurturing to reach that harvest? Like in your body, what are you doing to make sure you nurture, excuse me, that's a tongue twister, that you nurture the harvest that you want of good health? What you do in your life brings about an outcome, good or bad. It can
Yeah.
be negative seeds or positive. So looking at the root system. If you have a strong root system, I think I have a picture in the book, an illustration. If you have a strong root system and a storm comes along and that tree is yanked up, if that root system is strong, it'll come up roots and all that. Pardon me, that root system will not separate from that tree most of the time. So building that depth and the width of the root system in your life will sustain, will support, and will stabilize.
I believe that wholeheartedly. Another part which was fascinating, see, a lot of time, and again, this is why I loved your book. It's a whole different perspective. Look, I'm gonna give a confession to everybody that I read a lot of books, and a lot of my friends, authors, they send me, like, Ali, read this, and I read. I genuinely, I don't just skim through it. I take my time and I go beginning to end, right? And many times I'm like, heard it before, 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 right? Like, especially when you read as much and in my world, I interview as many people as I do. I mean, literally just this week alone, we've done 4 different like speakers, and you're the highlight of the week so far. And there's so much information that we're always gathering, right? Which is good for me. Like, I'm always in school, but I've never heard this term or the way that you taught what you taught about. A lot of people say, well, you need to change, or, I want to change, or I have to change my habits. What you put is exchange something for something else. It's like, hey, you got to give up that bad thing for the good thing, but you put it in a way that does not force the shock of my ritual or my, day-to-day operation. Like, some people can just give up their coffee and start working out every single morning. But if they can exchange, sitting down for, walking around the block while they're still in their house vicinity while with their coffee in their hand. So talk to me about that whole concept of exchanging versus just hardcore changing.
I'd love to. Well, first of all, I think that change is hard, and most people think they want it, but they're not willing to pay the price.
Yeah.
And a lot of people, just saying the word change puts them off, repels them, because they really don't want change. They're scared of change sometimes. So the word exchange is you're exchanging something that you don't want for something you do want. So I really look at, there's no real solid base of change. It's exchange. And so we decide what we're willing. If you're not willing to change something or to release something, then thinking you're going to experience change is really foolhardy. It's just not going to happen in my perspective. And so talking to people about the small steps they can make, about the exchanging, someone will say, I'm so lonely. Okay, I'm willing. What are you willing to exchange? Exchange loneliness for engagement with others, for participation. I'm so tired all the time. Well, what habit are you willing to exchange for feeling more energetic? And that kind of thing. And so I have a whole list of those that help people look at the exchange. And I use the example, which I love. God gives me these kind of analogies where I just see these pictures of what a lesson could be in life. So we talk about this is the thing to do spiritually or in our thoughts. Are we willing? Willingness is more important than commitment sometimes. What are you willing to do? What are you willing to give up to get something? So I many times don't ask a person's commitment. I'll ask them, what is your willingness? If I knew of something that would make a difference for you as it has for others, what is your willingness to know more? If they're not willing to know more, maybe because they weren't asked. It's not always that they're not willing. It's just they haven't been asked. So what is their willingness? So I like the example of the women on the trapeze. When I was little, they would always talk about Ringling Brothers circus, Ringling Brothers Circus, and they would talk about the woman on the trapeze, the beautiful woman on the trapeze. And you're watching this woman, and she's going from one ring to the other. She's just kind of dangling on that rope. And she's looking at this beautiful, usually it's a beautiful gold sash, and she's just hanging on this sash, kind of dangling back and forth, swishing a little bit. You see her eye going to the right where she's going to lunge for a gold ring. She's going to lunge for it. She's going to go there. You can see her getting closer and closer to it, swinging closer and closer. All of a sudden, she lunges for that gold ring. But she first, before she does, she has let go of holding on to anything at all. There is a few seconds there where she is holding on to nothing at all. She's not holding on to the rope she had, the sash, and she's not holding on to the ring she's going for. She's holding on to nothing. And that's many times what we have to do in life. We can't hold on to the past and lunge for the future. Many times we have to release the past, let go, and be willing to throw everything we have into that gold ring, to grab what we say we love, what we say we want. Sometimes we're holding on to nothing at all. Nothing
That's so
at all.
factual. Sometimes we hold to nothing at all. Somebody put that on a t-shirt, please.
A coffee cup.
Seriously, that was mic dropper. Let's just finish right now because that's the way to end the interview. Yeah. One other piece, which I was like evaluated. I was going through, who do I talk to the most? Who do I invest my time with the most? Who do I reach out to when I have a flat tire? And when you were covering choose your friends with excellence. Now let's talk about that, because that is a somewhat of a sensitive topic, right? Like our friends, for the most part, they just kind of were phases in our lives that we carried them into other phases. I might have grown in my life, but I didn't kick my friend out. That is still, pulling me down sometimes when I talk to them. Look, I love all my friends, but some of them I would spend more time with than others. No disrespect to any of them. They're just might not be in a place that I am. I know, look, I got family members. They would literally call me like, all right, Dr. Phil, because I'm always positive and giving advice wherever, even sometimes they don't even ask for it, right? And I'm like, man, all right, we are not having the same mindset, or we're not in the same frequency. So I have to excuse myself, because I'm not going to compromise my God-given gifts just because you don't want to grow in what I believe could be your God-given gift, right? So you talk about choose friends with excellence. How does one wake up tomorrow and say, okay, let me go ahead and go through the inventory of friendship that I have? Do we get busy with life? Do we just kick them out of our lives? Do we have a conversation with them and say, hey, this is your annual review, and unfortunately your friendship account has expired? How do we go about that?
Oh gosh, that's funny. Well, first of all, you make a decision to choose. How many friends have we really chosen on purpose? We kind of bump into them. We grew up with them. We meet them at work. We meet them at church or whatever. And that doesn't mean that they're not good friends, but the friends you choose to really bring excellence is what they bring and what you bring to them. Again, there's an exchange of excellence. I pray for the right friends, that we have similar calling, that we can support each other's capacity, that speak into my life. So you can have friends of all types, but who are the friends you allow to speak into your life? Who are the friends that you want what they have? You can have friends that you don't want what they have. Hey, let's go to dinner once every 6 months, or let's have a talk. But you shield yourself because what they have to impart is not supporting where you're going. You love them. You care for them. You would be there for them. You want to impart to them. There is, though, a decision you make to what will you receive from them. And I'm not saying that you don't love them and you don't care for them, but you start looking for the friend that's going to match or going to support you where you are. For instance, in your spiritual growth, you may have a friend that's doing things that you don't feel is compatible with your spiritual growth or decisions you're making in your life. You still care for them, but you may not hang out with them as much because of where they are. I know specifically for people that have been in an addiction and their friends are still in that, but they're choosing a different life. Sometimes they have to limit not their love or their care or their friendship, but they limit the time or where they spend their time. They start being very strategic about, hey, let's go out for coffee. Let's not go out where you used to, and that kind of thing. So it's, are they compatible with where you're going? And then pray for the ones who are, that can speak into your life. And so I look at it this way. Let's say you have a circle, that's you, and the circle around you is your inner circle. Those are your ride and dies. Those are the ones, man, they're going to be there in destiny, in devastation. You know, that's the person you can call. And they give to your life. You know. And they give to your life and you give to theirs. But then there's that other circle that you're willing to give to them anything they need. You're willing to really be there for them, but you're not necessarily willing for them to give to you. You're not willing to accept what they have to give. So looking for those and praying for those, because I do believe that God brings friendships, and sometimes it's for a season. It may not be the same level of friend later.
Yeah. That's deep. That's deep. All right. I got a word for you, and I'm going to try to say it right. I know what it means. I'm going to paraphrase it, but its relevance was so phenomenal, and I want you to kind of, I wrote it down, kintsukuro. And that's where the broken glass, where you're trying to re-put it together. Mm-hmm. I know, again, I'm paraphrasing the concept, but can you please talk to us about, because that was so powerful. And that's why I was telling everybody, I'm like, look, you're going to find yourself reading a spiritual book, a life, personal, business, relationship, and all of a sudden you're in philosophy class. And, so talk to us about the kintsukuro concept.
Right. I sure will. I love this concept, and I really do believe it's what we can live. That's the important part. And the concept is that from the brokenness, the gold comes. Gold comes from the brokenness. That the value of the brokenness, of the areas of life that were broken, the hardships, the tough times, the pain, from those places, value is received. Gold is received. So when you see the vase, that is the one that we use to show this understanding. You see these cracks in this vase, and you see the gold merging the cracks together. They're not, the gold's just not in the crack. The gold is literally the mortar of the crack. And I really do believe that we have, to this point, intersections with destiny, where the slopes in life, the delays, the derailments, the trains on the track, all the stuff, the yellow light didn't turn green fast enough. All those things are meant to protect us, to make sure we're at the right place at the right time. And I look at that in the pain as well. Our power comes from our pain. And that is what that really means, is look for the gold in the cracks.
Is it possible for anyone to go from Trainwreck to Triumph, or have you seen somebody who is like, look, you need a lot more than because again, I know how people are. I'm a human, and I have my own doubts sometimes with, like, I don't know if I'm the candidate to go through this experience, but is this book for everybody to go through their transition from Trainwreck to Triumph, no matter where they are in their lives?
Yes. I believe so, because God meets you where you are, and he takes you to where you're willing to go in him. And sometimes I get a little upset with people that say, well, I'm not going to say this to them because they're not ready for it. How do we know they're not ready for it?
Yeah.
We don't know that. So communicating effectively makes a difference. This book is for everyone, and I want to tell you why. If you want to just open the book on some page and choose 3 or 4 pages that's right there, you'll be empowered. You'll begin to change. You'll see the nuggets that will make a difference. If you're going through a hideous train wreck that doesn't seem like there will ever be an answer, there are still ways to heal. There's still hope. There's still healing, because God is a God of healing. Everything he brings up that's painful is for healing. His strategy is to heal our brokenness, our times of devastation. There is destiny, and I believe his word, his voice, and his power is more powerful than anything we could ever experience. But we all begin the same way. We all get back the same way. Forgiveness, release, It's so important. And I just want to speak to forgiveness for a second, if I may, on this. In scriptural days, the way they punished someone who took someone else's life, and many of you may be watching this and thinking, someone took my life. They took my marriage, they took my child, they took my job, they lied to me, they betrayed. I understand that. And so some people have taken your life that you look at. But in the scriptural days, when someone had murdered someone, they strapped the carcass of that dead person facing them onto their body. And their judgment was to carry the death of that body with them until that death became their own.
Mm.
And that's the picture of unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is the person you're trying to forgive may be having a great life and doing better than you are because they're not thinking about you every morning when they get up. They're on with it. These people renting real estate in your brain, like we say, and real estate in your heart are not worth you continuing in pain and bringing the death of the past into the life you have to live in the present.
I couldn't agree with you more. As a matter of fact, I had that moment. 2019 till this year, we've had incredible ups and ridiculous nose down crashes. Right? It's just life. I think I can speak for on behalf of the United States of America. Many of us
Yes.
have experienced the nose down. Right? Brighter days are ahead of us. But there were individuals, right, whether they intentionally or not intentionally, that did things that hurt us directly, business wise, or just bad things overall, right? And I'll never forget. This is probably a month ago. A gentleman that intentionally did some bad moves and a partnership that hurt a lot of people and hurt us, not necessarily physically, but it caused a lot of people to stop an operation and have to start all over again. So, but it's an annoying thing, right? You interfere with people's livelihoods and lives. And I had that I wish I can face him kind of a thing, right? And, you pray every single day, and it just a voice said, call, say, I love you, I forgive you, and whatever you're doing, I pray for nothing but greatness. And here's the fascinating part, right? I did exactly that. I picked up my phone, voice note. I'm like, hey, I'm not expecting you to call me back. I'm not expecting you to engage with me. I'm not expecting you to message me back. But I just want you to know I am so proud of you. I am so happy for you. I love you. And if I hurt you in any way, I hope you find in your heart to forgive me. And I want you to know I forgive you with everything that's within me. And I cannot wait to see you succeed. The response that I got was, I can't even tell you what perfect timing this was. I'm in tears right now. And he sends me a video. He was getting baptized at that very same moment that I'm sending him that video. And it was really a healing moment for me, because you know what the answer to me that was? You were hurting a brother in faith, no matter how mad you were at him. And it was just such a beautiful moment. And you talk about like complete, utter freedom. Like I am no longer carrying that dead weight with me of the pain that, again, I don't even know what was going on through his mind when he made the decision that he has made, like hurt people, right? Like that's usually how it works. So I couldn't agree with you more. Well, look, as we're coming towards the end of this interview, I want you to know that your book is fascinating. Your book is impactful. Your book allowed me to, do a double look. Like, did she really say what she just said? Your book made me take notes on the side. Like I have literally, a bunch of notes that I and it created conversations, which I know something impacts me when I go to my wife and my best friend and I say, babe, did you know? Babe, have you ever heard, babe, and we were doing that a lot. And that means that there's a lot of
I love
impact,
that.
Absolutely. So I am a fan, and I cannot wait. And again, for those who are still listening, remember, you subscribe, you purchase, and you write a review. You subscribe to the email list so you can be part of the whole experience with Trainwreck to Triumph, so you can get access to all the goodies you saw in the commercial break. You purchase a copy of your book and you write a review, and Teri Werner is going to let us know, hey, This individual is amongst the 20 individuals that deserve a vacation. And it is a 4-night, 5-day in Mexico. You can go anytime you want. We just got to know beforehand so we can comp it for you. And of course, you just cover your taxes and whenever you're ready, your flight. But the stay itself, it's about an average of $450 a night. The stay itself and your food and your beverage, 100% will cover it for you, which we are so excited. Now, let me come back to the Queen. I'd love to give you the final moment for any remarks that you may have for our listeners, your final thoughts for your hope, your wishes for the book.
Wow. I would say this is my desire is that every reader finds their destiny, lives fully in triumph, and don't waste time. Don't waste time. Do it now. Forgive now. Release now. Allow God's Spirit and His power to make changes in relationships you don't believe could ever happen, because they will happen. I've seen some amazing things, and I believe this. And then also, I hope that every person can walk through the book, do the journals whenever you choose to, and experience a life of triumph, a life filled with vision. If anything were possible, what is the one thing you would choose to be possible in your life? Cling to that, pray for that, plan for that, and prepare for that, because that can happen. And I believe it will happen to you and for you.
Amen to that. And there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Ali Midawi. We are the ME Studios. A huge shout out to Rich Tomes, our Chief Production Officer, and the rest of the team from the ME Studios. We love and appreciate you. And until next time, get a copy of the book today. It is available everywhere, paperback and digital format. You are missing out. Let's go. We'll see you next time.
Hey, this is Teri Werner, and I want to tell you one thing, that as I was writing my book, Trainwreck to Triumph, you were on my mind. No matter what you've gone through and what you plan on taking place in your life, triumph is for you. And when you go to trainwrecktotriumph.com and put your email address in to subscribe to We Triumph Community, you'll receive information about free product, and you'll receive the download of your free ebook, How to Help Your Friend Heal Through Their Train Wreck Without Jumping in with Them.